ברוכה הבאה. You're very
Hi,
welcome.
Joan.
Hi. Two Jones.
Two Jones.
Got your email, Joan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hi, Joan.
Hello.
Okay, now it's okay. Now we are here. We are recording this meeting. Everybody is very welcome. And I would like to wish in advance Hag Kasher V'Sameach. Do you know why we wish Hag Kasher V'Sameach? Because in every holiday we used to wish Hag Sameach, that it means happy holiday. Why Hag Kasher V'Sameach in this opportunity? Why we add kasher? Because the idea is to keep the special kashrut for Passover, that it's different from the rest of the year. Okay, we eat specific food, and then this is the reason that we add Hag Kasher V'Sameach, our wish that we will have an appropriate food to celebrate the holiday. And food is also a very important element to match us with our story. It's very important. This is the reason that we need to prepare our homes in advance, and all depend, of course, of the way that you follow your Judaism. If you follow as a traditional family, Jewish family, okay, you will clean the entire kitchen. You will start by the kitchen, but by the entire home. And this is what we call Bedikat Hametz. You are trying to find the Hametz that you have in your home. And later on, you practice Biur Hametz. Then there are many people who sell the Hametz to the neighbors, or they are burn down the Hametz as a way to eliminate the food or the rest of the food that we can find in our homes related to the entire year. And the specific rules for Passover are regarding, and they trying to match us with the food that our ancestors used to eat during the time of the desert. Okay, matzah, and a common we know about matzah, but in the time of the desert they didn't have Trader Joe's, and they didn't have other supermarkets.
Didn't have dishes.
People. Okay, yes, exactly, and they were happy with matzah. But in fact, if we continue to read the story about the Exodus, they were at the beginning they were happy, and later on they asked for different food. Many of them tried to return to Egypt. They remember how lucky they were eating fish, but they didn't remember the suffer as slavers. The idea this night is to talk about the Hagaddah, the secrets that we can find in the Hagaddah, and you will be very surprised about many things that we will find. First of all, let's talk about the structure of the night. Yes, we have a commemoration, we have a holy time, and we need to start for the very beginning. We need to start for the Torah. The Torah give us the notion about why we need to commemorate Passover. Let me find here. Let me find here the document, because I prepared this in my. Let me put, okay, let me open here, now will work. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. First of all, we need to go to the book of Leviticus, the book of Vaikra. Can you see the screen, the Torah? Yes? We are in Leviticus 23rd, verses 4 to verse 8. אלה מועדי אדוני מקראי קודש אשר תקראו אותם במועדתם. These are the set time of God, the sacred occasion which you shall celebrate each at its appropriate time. We have an appropriate time for the celebration if we follow and we read the book of Leviticus. בחודש הראשון, ב-14 לחודש, בין 40 פסח לאדוני. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at twilight, there shall be a Passover offering to Adonai. It's very clear, yes, in the 14th of the first month by the Bible, if we consider the months, if we follow the order of the months by the Torah, by the Bible, the first month is Nisan. Nisan, it's the 7th month by the calendar of the sage Hillel II. Okay, we have 2 points of view, and this is not strange because we are Jews. When we are trying to see which month is the first, the question is, all depends the calendar, if we follow the calendar of Hillel II or if we follow the calendar of the Torah. Nisan became the first month because it became the month of freedom month. We starting to be a people when we won our freedom, and we were really free to commemorate our holidays. Slavers can commemorate any holiday. They don't commemorate. They don't have right to commemorate. We, as a free people, started to commemorate Pesach. And Pesach, at the beginning, it was not the commemoration that we know nowadays. Nowadays, we are sitting around the table and we follow the Seder and order. We follow 15 steps, and in each step of the Seder, we remember our history in Egypt and what's going on after when we became a free people. But at the beginning, the way to commemorate Pesach was offering a sacrifice to God. In our last Torah study meeting, TNT, Filan Torah, we talk about the sacrifices. Do you remember? And then it was very common for the people of Israel, after they left Egypt, they received the Torah, and in the Sefer Vaikra, in Leviticus, that we started to read last Shabbat, it's very clear the different kind of sacrifice that our people needs to give us a present to God. Okay, and the way to commemorate Pesach was in the 14th day by a sacrifice. וב-15 יום לחודש הזה חג המצות לאדוני, 7 ימים מצות תאכלו. And here, when we are talking about, I talked before about biur and bedikat and biur chametz, that we need to find the chametz. It's very clear in the book of Leviticus, and in the 15th day of the month of Nisan, Adonai feast of unleavened bread. Unleavened bread, matzah. You shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days. This is the reason that we need to clean our homes and we need to clean our houses to follow these verses from the book of Leviticus. ביום הראשון מקרא קודש יהיה לכם כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו. On the first day you shall celebrate a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupations. ויקריבתם אישי לאדוני שבעת ימים ביום השביעי, מקרא קודש, כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו, 7 days you shall make offering by fire to Adonai. The 7th day shall be a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupation. Okay, these are this is the part of Leviticus, the Sefer Vaikra, that it's talking about our holiday, the holiday of Passover. We need to celebrate, and it's holiday the first day, the last day, and okay, we have a celebration, 7-day celebration, but the holidays of this celebration are the first day and the last day. In that days, you can't work. Kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu. Okay, it's a long celebration, 1 week celebration, but the days in the middle we call Chol HaMoed. We call that days Chol HaMoed. They are sacred days, but you have some permission to do your obligation, your occupation. But in the first day and in the last day, you can't do this. This is the reason when we celebrate Pesach, we celebrate the first night, the second night, or the last night. You can organize your Seder in an appropriate way, following the halacha, following the Jewish law. You can celebrate in the first night, the second night, or in the last night, because it's Mikra Kodesh, it's celebrate a sacred day. Okay, this is to know the origin of our holiday. Now, at the beginning, we sacrifice animals to celebrate Pesach, and I explained this during our meeting, during our last meeting, that cows and animals were very important, and they were holy for the Egyptians, and then to sacrifice, and some of these animals were gods for the Egyptian. When our God asked to us to sacrifice an animal, it was a way to show that we started to believe just in one God, and the animals were not God for us as a people. I explained that in Egypt they had a god for fertility, one god for rain, one god for sun, one god for the moon, one god for water, one god for fertility. Okay, we summarize with a new ideology, and we started to believe just in one God. Okay, we have a book that we call Hagaddah. Hagaddah, it's coming from the Hebrew word leagid. You need to tell. We need to tell. You need to tell the new generation about Egypt. We need to tell. We need to talk about what happened in the past, and it's part of the Seder to read the Hagaddah. If you don't have an Hagaddah, okay, you can open the Exodus book and you can read the history of Yetziat Mitzrayim when we left Egypt. But the Hagaddah became the most popular book that we read in our tables, and we celebrate this holiday reading this book. And we celebrate during the Seder. Okay, we join and we invite our families, our friends to sit and to share a Seder. What is a Seder? Do you have any idea about the origin of the Seder? Because we were talking about sacrifice of animals, but the Seder is completely different. No one sacrificed an animal. I remember a couple of years ago, some Christians come to me and said, Rabbi, can you organize a Seder for us? And they expect that I will appear with an animal to sacrifice in the middle of the dinner. And I said, no, we don't sacrifice any more animals. We celebrate in a different way. Okay, we are sitting and we are eating different plates, many plates, but what is the origin of the Seder? Is it a Jewish tradition? When we start, from where we took this, because let's forget for a time, okay, let's forget the Hagaddah, let's forget the Exodus history. We are sitting around the table and we are eating an entry, first plate, second plate, dessert, many plates during the night. From where it's coming, this model of dinner? You have any idea?
Is it from the Romans?
No.
No?
Well, I know that when the Last Supper was supposed to be Passover.
No, they didn't have a Seder back then. That's actually not the case. It's a myth.
Well, it's not a Seder, but they're sitting around a table.
But it's coming for where? For which culture it's coming, the model of the Seder?
Sitting around a table? I don't know.
When this says Roman, but no, it's coming from the Greek Empire. The model of our Seder, it's coming from the Greek Empire, and they call symposium. They call symposium.
Symposium, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was a symposium? Okay, many people sitting around couches, okay, sitting or perhaps in a very pleasant positions, and they used to discuss about philosophy, about body, about beauty. They used to eat, and they used also practice sex during the symposiums. It was not just a meeting. And what the sages of Israel did, they took the model of the symposium, one entry, one first plate, second plate, dessert, and they create something to talk about Egypt. This is the way that we can see how the Jewish culture it's coming and is absorbing other cultures. Okay, we can say, we are so smart that we create this model of dinner. Yes, first, an entry, first plate. No, this is coming from the Greek culture, and it seems that in the Second Temple of Jerusalem, during in the time of the Second Temple of Jerusalem, they started to celebrate Pesach like we know in our days. But it's a very important information, because we are going to talk about the secret of the Hagaddah, and the Hagaddah became a popular book, yes, a paper book, in the time of Gutenberg, not before. Okay, and we are talking about 1,400 years. Yes, when Gutenberg arrives to Germany, and it's not, and we can see that one of the first Haggadot was developed in Germany. Okay, and the Haggadah became more popular by the time of Gutenberg and later on. When we open many Jewish books, yes, Diane.
Do we know where the original Haggadah is?
Yes, we are going to see now. We are going to see.
But where in the world is it?
There are many Haggadot. We will
Okay.
now I will show you the history of the Haggadot, and not just this. I will show you, and you will be very surprised, because we have many Haggadot. We have Haggadot from here, there, but we have also the Haggadah of Washington. one of the first Hagadot in the United States of America. Okay, we are going to see this because now with the technology, we have facsimiles of this Hagadot, and it's very easy nowadays to open, to see, and to buy a facsimile. Then we have the opportunity to see how their books are. But it's very important, first of all, to consider what we are doing during the Seder. We are sitting around the table, okay? We talk about the symposium. It's coming from the Greek time. We transform this by the Jewish values. We are talking about our history. And we trying to attract the attention of the old generations. All generations are sitting around the table. Okay, young people, old people, everybody together. But we need to do something for the little kids. We need them very active till the end of the Seder. What we created for this, we created the Afikoman, or Afikoman, I don't know how you pronounce. The Afikoman, it's also a Greek word that means desert. And the reason that we are playing with the Afikoman, and we invite the kids to look for the Afikoman during the night, and we are giving a prize to them. But it was a way to find that the kids can be till the end of the Seder, till the end of the dinner, awake, and they can participate with us. You can see the influence of the Greek culture inside the structure of the Seder. We can say, okay, it's a Greek dinner. No, it's not a Greek dinner, but the structure, the model of the night, it came from another culture. And the Hagaddah became a popular book because we have different versions from the Hagaddah. We have a lot of versions of the Hagaddah. And something different from the Hagaddah to other books, that we have illustrations. Okay? We have characters, and we have colors when the color arrive, and we have many creative Hagadot that are around the world, and perhaps some of you created your own Hagaddah in your home. Okay, for other celebrations, for other occasions, we don't have, nobody print his own Siddur. We have Siddur, the prayer book, and we follow the order, and we don't see the signs, or we don't see many colors on the Siddur. It's just the prayer that is print. But when we are talking about Hagaddah, we are looking about many colors to make this book very attractive. And this is one of the most beautiful things that we can see, the diversity that we find in the Hagadot. I would like to introduce Professor Dr. David Golinkin. He was my dean in the Rabbinical Seminary Schechter in Jerusalem. It's a short video, just 3-minute video, that he talked about the symposium, and he compared the Greek culture with the Jewish culture, and he talked a little bit about the history of the Hagaddah. Let's share this. 1 minute. Okay.
Approach the holiday of Pesach, I would like to talk about the Seder and the Symposium. Where did the Seder come from? If you look through the entire Tanakh, you will find no mention of the Seder. If you look through all the Second Temple sources, you will find no mention of the Seder. The Seder is first mentioned in the Mishnah in Tosefta Psachim, chapter 10, which was apparently written at the end of the Second Temple period. In 1957, Siegfried Stein published a famous article in the Journal of Jewish Studies, in which he shows that the Seder took the forms of the Greek symposium or banquet and transformed them into the Pesach Seder. For example, the Mishnah tells us that we must recline on a couch during the Seder, and if you look here at the picture of a Greek symposium, you will see that all the participants are reclining on couches. Similarly, we are told in the Talmud Bavli in the Tractate of Psachim that you have to recline on your left arm at the Seder. So too, if you look at the pictures of the Greek symposium, they were all reclining on their left arm. At the Seder, we dip chazeret, or lettuce, romaine lettuce, in salt water. That's exactly what they did at the symposium. At the Seder, we eat charoset. That was one of the standard foods served at the symposium. At the Seder, we have the korech, we have the hillel sandwich. Once again, this was a standard custom at the symposium. Similarly, the Mishnah talks about the afikoman after the Paschal Lamb, and Professor Saul Lieberman proved in the 1930s that the afikoman is a slight variation on the Greek word epikomon, and epikomon was a custom of carousing after the symposium, going from house to house, dancing, singing, drinking, and you're not allowed to do that after the Paschal sacrifice. In a similar fashion, the literary forms of the Seder are based on the symposium. For example, the 4 questions, which are really quite simple. At the symposium, the questions asked were also very simple. In the Hagaddah, we read about the 5 sages reclining all night long in Bnei Brak. Similarly, at the symposium, they would recline all night long. Another parallel, the Mishnah in Psachim says that one must explain Pesach, Matzah, and Maror at the Seder, and the items must be lifted up when explaining them. So too at the symposium, they would lift up a piece of food and give an explanation about that piece of food. At the Seder, we sing the Nishmat, one of the most beautiful prayers in our liturgy, in which we talk about our mouths filled with song as the sea. At the symposium, they would sing songs in praise of the emperor. What can we learn from all of these parallels? The Jewish people throughout the generations did not live in a vacuum. They absorbed much from their surroundings, but they did not absorb blindly. The sages took the form of the symposium and entirely changed the contents of the symposium and turned the symposium into the Seder. The Greeks and the Romans discussed love, beauty, food, and drink. The sages discussed the exodus from Egypt, the miracles of God, and the greatness of the Geulah, or the redemption. The symposium was meant for the elite. The Seder was meant for the entire Jewish people. We are bombarded today by a host of outside influences from the Western world. May God give us the wisdom to selectively adopt some of their forms and to fill them with Jewish content, as the sages did at the Seder. Chag Kasher v'Sameach, may you have a joyous Seder and Passover holiday.
Okay, this is Rabbi Professor David Golinkin. He's great. He's a sage of our time. He's brilliant. And I was really very lucky to have him as my professor in Jerusalem. It's really very, very clear what he spoke about. And we need to add one important information about the structure of the Seder, that it's very, very pedagogical structure. It's the base of the Seder are questions and answers. Questions and answers. We create a dialogue between the generations. Okay? Ma nishtana alayla ze. Why it's different this night for other nights? Shevechol alaylot hanochlim chametz uvetza. It's a dialogue between generations. But it's more than a dialogue. It's questions and answers. Questions and answers. And Hagaddah, it's coming for the word leagid. We need to tell. Like you are sitting and you are telling story to your son, to your daughter. We need to tell a story to the new generations, and we need to tell them about our own story. It's an obligation and it's an invitation to feel ourselves that we are going out for Egypt in this generation. We need to feel this. And when you are sitting and when you are eating, is it matzah? If you eat a piece of matzah, it's not a delicious food. Can you eat the entire week just matzah? Plenty matzah? I don't like. I would like to be honest. Okay, there are many recipes to prepare with matzah, but just plenty matzah, I don't know if you love too much to eat just matzah during the entire week. Okay, the idea it's not just to eat matzah, it's to feel that we are in the time that our ancestors used to eat matzah and how difficult it was. They didn't have a variety of food. They walk in the middle of the desert. The weather conditions were terrible. The challenge was enormous. They didn't know where they are going to arrive. It took 40 years to arrive to the Holy Land. And then we need to consider the environment that they were. But during the night of Pesach, we try to rescue this story, and it's the most important thing. We are not talking just about the past, we are talking about the present. How important it is to be free. Yes, we are talking about freedom. Freedom, it's a contemporary value. There are many people who still as slavers. Okay, then we are talking about freedom. One of the American values is freedom. In every place that I'm going, in every museum that I visit in America, and every war museum that you visit in America, the first word that you can read is freedom. Okay, freedom, it's a value. I'm thinking that it's, of course, it's a Jewish value. It's so important, but it's a value that many other peoples share with us. And we share this value with others. We have many important things that started with Israel, but continue with others. For example, Shabbat. Shabbat, it's a value, okay, that give us the opportunity to rest. And who can rest? Someone who is free. If you are not free, you don't have the right to rest. Okay, then freedom is so important, and this is what we are doing when we celebrate nowadays Pesach. We are not thinking about Egypt. I'm not thinking about the Pharaoh. I talk about the Pharaoh, but what I try to appreciate it's how important is perhaps my religion freedom, the free of speech. There are many ways to feel ourselves free. Let me answer, Diane, your question about the history of the Hagadot. And I found a very interesting text that developed the origin of the Hagadot. Once again. Okay, is it the text online? Yes, can you see the text? Diane, do you like to read with your nice voice this text?
Every eon has its eras, every era its periods, every period has its epochs, every epoch has its ages. Outside of what we learn in geology class, the two words in my Dickensian opening sentence with which we are vernacularly familiar are era and age. There are unending lists of significant cultural human interests that are defined this way. These include the histories of culture, technology, war, crises, mythology, cosmology, medicine, architecture, arts, science, and a list that could go on until the next era of everything I've listed, plus anything people have brought in to Antiques Roadshow. I would like to suggest that the development of the Hagaddah deserves to be placed under a similar rubric, and that the Hagaddah age can be partitioned into the coalescing era, the illuminated era, the proliferation era, the commentary era, and the creative era. There's no need to be heavy-handed here. I will not cite Haggadah to see into which era they fit. Rather, I'll outline the history with a timeline and anecdotes. Let's go back to prehistory, to the Mishnaic and Talmudic periods.
Okay, let me just put. Okay,
520 BCE, our earliest possible starting point, aside from biblical passages for the Haggadah contents, because most of the text is understood to arise during the Second Temple period, which ends in 70 CE, as are the central players in the text. 90 BCE, the
You-
first
just let me ask. Everybody knows what is BCE? Before common.
common era, right? Right.
Yes, exactly.
Because the alternative we don't do. All right, so 90 BCE, the first ever mention of a Seder service is in the Mishnah of the Talmud by Rabbi Gamaliel. He declares before the legislative body of the Sanhedrin, one who has not said these three words, Pesach, Matzah, and Maror, has not done his duty. These words are recorded, included, and thereafter immortalized. 70 CE, the Second Temple is destroyed, marking the last time an actual Passover sacrifice is offered.
Yes, we need to remember that in that time, when the Beit HaMikdash, the Temple of Jerusalem, was open, they sacrificed animals during Pesach. And we need to remember that Pesach was one of the three pilgrims' holidays. Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Okay, all the people of Israel used to go to Jerusalem to offer sacrifice or to take the first fruits, the Bikurim. But till the Second Temple of Jerusalem, they celebrate Pesach by offering sacrifices. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I at first and second? Okay. First and second centuries, the time of Rabbi Yos, Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Akiva, 50 to 135 CE, whose thoughts on how many plagues were visited upon the Egyptians are recorded for all time. 170 CE, the earliest possible date for a complete Haggadah to have been created, because Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli exists here, and this is the last Tana quoted in the Haggadah text. Therefore, it must be presumed that the text must have been completed after this time and not earlier. 135 to 360 CE. Arguments ensue among various commentators as to the origin of the text, based on a short discussion in the Talmud in Pesachim 116a. 135 is the birth year of the compiler of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, to whom some attribute the Haggadah's creation. 360 is the time of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, who is cited as one of two possible Nachmans who may have compiled the Haggadah text. The other Nachman bar Yaakov, whose heyday was 280 CE. Over the next several hundred years, various parts are added and modified until finally they are solidified around 700 to 800 CE. During this time, the Haggadah is generally printed only as an addendum to other printed Sephorim during this period. Example as part of a Siddur published by Amram Gaon, whose single intact fragment dated to 860 was found in the Cairo Geniza. Sadia Gaon 928 through 942 and is part of the Rambam Mishneh Torah, among others, and is only printed outright on his own during the middle of the 13th century. Some believe that several independent, there's a typo right there, Haggadah texts were printed between the 10th and 13th century, with the year 1250 believed to be the best approximate date, but these have not survived. This follows a pattern more common than some might anticipate. Another such paradigm worth watching is the pre-Etz Hadar, the text used for some for Tu B'Shvat Seders. This is popular among Hasidim, becoming more popular among the modern Orthodox, and has very, very few self-standing printed versions. Most pre-Etz Hadars remain as an addendum to other prayer books and, in my opinion, may soon become popular enough, perhaps, to enjoy its own day in the sun. We are a people of ritual after all, and this seems like a valuable piece of tradition. The first ever mention of a Seder service is in the Mishnah of the Talmud by Rabbi Gamaliel. 1300, the birds, Hagaddah, made in Germany and designed for Ashkenazi Jews, can be found in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem today, and whose bird's head depiction remain a curiosity to this day. 1320, the Golden Haggadah was created in or around Spain for Sephardi Jews, magnificent and grand in its design and layout, can today be found in the British Library.
Just 1 minute. It's very important to remark that Spain in that time was an important Jewish center of culture. And also we have, we can find Spain or Barcelona as a place for the first Siddur that we can find. Okay?
Wow.
Barcelona, Spain was really very important Jewish center, and we need to know that after Isabel, the Catholic queen, she came to power, the situation with the Jewish community was really very hard, and it was the Inquisition time, and the Jewish were murdered, or they were killed, or they need to leave Spain, or they convert to Catholicism. Okay, but Spain, it's really an important point. We saw here Germany, second place Spain, and we can see we have Ashkenazi Haggadah, we have Sephardi Haggadah. Okay, other
Okay.
Haggadot.
Okay, I just wanted to say I read a great book that I found in the temple, and it's probably been 10 years now, but it was called The Mezuzah in Madonna's Foot. And that's about the Inquisition, and it's a great book if you're interested. Okay, to continue. 1350, the Sarajevo Haggada is the most well known for this era. It is illuminated and entirely in Hebrew. The original can be found in the National Museum of Bosnia in Sarajevo. I love illuminations. They are so gorgeous. Okay, 1478, the Washington Haggada, so called because its home is now in Washington, D.C., bedecked with splendid multicolor art with some strange for our time misogynistic twists. If only. Late 14th century, the Rylands Haggada is produced in Spain. Recently, this work visited the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. 1526, the Prague Haggada, comprised of fine woodcut scenes relevant to the text and scenes that are not, but seem to have a hopeful, forward-looking end of days redemptive quality. It is the earliest printed Haggada that exists today in its entirety. 1450, the printing press is invented, but curiously does not immediately induce a marked proliferation of unique texts. This phenomenon is held in abeyance until centuries later. The first item off the assembly line is a Latin Bible. The first Hebrew prayer book using the press is produced in 1475. 1482, the first speculated date for a Haggada to come off the printing press somewhere around Spain. One copy survives and currently lives in the Jewish National University Library in Jerusalem. To think the first such item in human history has no physical evidence of its publication place or date. 1486, the first confirmed Haggada to roll off the printing press is published by the famed Soncino family in Italy. During this post-printing press era, it seems that there is somewhat of a final drive to add a few more elements and generally codify the text for good. Before the turn of the 16th century, Hagaddah and Echod Mi Yodaya are added to an updated version of the Prague Haggada in 1590, leaving all Ashkenazi, is it Sephardic or Sephardic?
Sephardic, yes.
Another typo. And Mizrahi Haggadot, is that a typo?
Yes, Mizrahi, it's from Orient.
No, it should be Sephardic, right?
Yes, Sephardic.
Okay.
Yes, it's a mistake.
Mizrahi Haggadot, generally the same, save for subtle differences, the inclusion or exclusion of Sephirat Hayomer being one of them, plus other minor textual variations. 1505, the first Haggada to be printed with commentary is the Zivach Pesach in Constantinople by Yitzhak ben Yehuda Abravanel, known as the Abarbanel.
Yes.
Ooh, that's pretty. The next several centuries see general acceptance of the final text, more elaborate illustrations based mostly on the illuminated prototypes cited above, translation into at least 30 world languages. Oh, that's so pretty.
There is something really very important that we can see in this page of the Haggada. This is the Darmstadt Haggada, the Bird's Head Haggada from the University of Darmstadt. We can see here, and this is something that Professor Golinsky show us, that you can see women in the text. It was not very common in that time to see or the participation of the woman in any celebration. And we can see here in the top, we have women. It was not very common. And in other Hagadot that we are going to see, we will see also children. The ritual was more concentrated in many religions and in many people by the men. But we can see here in the Hagadot also inclusion and how important was the place of the woman that she appears also in the Hagaddah. We don't have many stories about women in the text, but we have designs of women.
Where is the bird's head, the strange bird's head?
You will see this is not
Oh,
exactly.
okay, okay,
I don't see the birds here,
okay, okay,
but I will show you the Hagaddah of the birds.
okay. 1450, the printing press is invented, but curiously does not immediately induce a marked proliferation of unique texts. Highlights along the way include 1512, the first Latin translation of the Hagaddah produced by a Franciscan friar, and is the first such translation understood not to have targeted a Jewish audience. 1526 to 1527, the earliest known printing of a complete illustrated Hagaddah called simply Hagaddah Shel Pesach, and also known as Hagaddah Shel Gershom Cohen for its maker, but more popularly known as the Prague Hagaddah for obvious reasons.
There is one important point to say, that we have in 1512 the first translation Hagaddah. It means that before this, all the Haggadot were in Hebrew, and it means that everybody from the community knows at least to read Hebrew to participate in the Seder. You can see the level of the culture for the Jewish people around the world, that they were fluent in Hebrew, most of them. And we have translation, if we consider the history in the last year, in the last centuries. Okay, continue, please.
1545, the Sefer Zivach Pesach is the first Hagaddah printed in Italy, and 1560, the famous Mantua Hagaddah is printed in Italy, and also 1609, the Seder Hagaddah Shel Pesach, the first to feature illustrations for the 10 plagues, is printed in Italy. These three printings are of note because the publishers were Christian. This comes about because Jews are not allowed to own printing presses in the region at the time. This unfortunate circumstance is common for this era. The term ghetto is unsurprisingly coined here. Never forget. 1644, the second ever translation into Latin, noteworthy because it is the first Hagaddah to include musical notation for its hymns. This is somewhat unfamiliar in the Jewish tradition, as songs are passed down generationally. 1695, the Amsterdam Hagaddah is published and is the first to include a map of the ancient land of Israel. It is also believed that this is the first Hebrew map of Israel ever printed. 1770, the first English translation in London, with pictures copied from the Amsterdam Hagaddah, which heralds a period of English translation firsts that include but are definitely not limited to Germany, 1857, Berlin, 1864, Hanover, 1869, Baltimore, 1878, Chicago, 1879, Austria, 1885, Frankfurt, 1887, Hungary, 1890, Israel, 1891, South Africa, 1923, Poland, 1924. And yes, a keen reader will note that the bulk of English translations appeared first in more non-English speaking countries than English speaking ones.
One important thing to consider also, all the cities and countries that you mentioned till today are important Jewish centers.
Yeah,
Okay, and then
yes, yes.
they
yes.
have a cultural production, and we can see the books that it's a legacy for these places. Please.
Okay, 1837, the first Haggadah is printed in the USA and is proudly titled Service for the Two First Nights of the Passover in English and Hebrew, first American edition. The first book off the press is at home in the Rosenbach Museum and Library in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. An updated 1922 version is believed to be the first Haggadah to include the Star-Spangled Banner. 1886, the first Haggadah is produced from the Reform stream, the new Haggadah Shel Pesach. The 19th century is certainly a diffusion period, when a recorded 1,269 new distinct manuscripts are published, followed by 1,100 in the first half of the 20th century, and preceded by merely 234 in the 18th, 37 in the 17th, and 25 total up until the 16th century. 1904, the Seder service is the first Haggadah to be translated by a woman. Lily Goldsmith Cowan produces what becomes known as the Cowan Haggadah and is the popular and widely used in the United States during the first quarter of the 295,000 copies during the first quarter of the 20th century. (1904) The Seder service is the first Haggadah to be translated by a woman. 1907, the Union Haggadah is published and is the first official Haggadah of the Reformed Jewish stream. It is translated to English from German. 1930s, a shift occurs in the Haggadah's general popularity and interpretability of its meaning. Oh, 1932, the Maxwell House Haggadah is published. I got a drawer full of those. First intended as a marketing strategy after it was carefully researched and crafted to ensure its kosher for Passover status. However, as a minor side effect, it might be said that it is the most widely used, most instantly recognized, and perhaps the best known of all time. What is known with a certainty is that more copies were published than perhaps all other Haggadot combined. Just a side note, I tried to get some more because we started having larger Seders and they were no longer available anywhere. That's a bold thing for me to claim, but I find you can't argue with 55 million copies. To put in perspective how many that is, it is worth noting that if it were considered a published book, it is perhaps classified as a pamphlet in the larger publishing world. It would rank number 17, directly alongside Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. If there is any question about its social popularity, I point the reader to the 2009 White Seder hosted by President Barack Obama. Final mind-blowing fact, it is the longest running advertising campaign in world history, as free Maxwell Haggadot are still offered along with your purchase of Maxwell House coffee. I don't think so. I don't think so. I
I
tried.
have one.
How old is this thing?
I don't know.
All right.
It's Maxwell
Okay.
has coffee.
1934 to 1936, the Polish Jewish artist Arthur Cyzyk took a bold leap forward with a Haggadah that contained the classic text, accompanied by arresting watercolors and drawing direct parallels between the fascist policies of Nazi Germany and the genocidal maneuvers of the Pharaoh of the biblical book of Exodus. This was almost certainly the first Haggadah of its kind to make a social statement. Rejected everywhere, a publishing house was created for the express purpose of publishing this Haggadah. King George VI, father of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II of England, received the first copy. It seems that the popularity of the former and the social statement of the latter supercharged a period of massive creation and distribution, specifically in commentary of a scholarly and social justice nature. Notable creations along these lines include 1941, the new Haggadah for the Pesach Seder, speaking for the Reconstructionist movement. 1945 to 1946, a survivor's Haggadah, likely having its bold roots in the Cyzyk Haggadah, is created by Holocaust survivors and presents the story of the Israelites' liberation from enslavement in Egypt, interwoven with the story of the Shoah. 1946, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the seventh Lubavitcher Rebbe, publishes his thoughts on the Haggadah with the title Haggadah im Lukutei Ta'amim u Minhagim. 1953, good year. Rabbi Dr. Paltiel Birnbaum creates the Seder Haggadah Shel Pesach, better known as the Birnbaum Haggadah, which experiences immense popularity with Orthodox and conservative audiences. Another typo. Wait, I think we missed a line up there. 1969, we got to go to 1969. The Freedom Seder comes to fruition, comparing ancient Jews to contemporary struggles such as the civil rights movement and women's movement. 1962, Koren Publishers is launched. Eponymous Haggadot of note include Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz's in 1983 and Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs in 2006. 1972, the Passover Haggadah, simply named, speaks for the conservative community. 1976, the publishing giant Art Scroll is created, and its production of Haggadot materials was immediate, as was its popularity. The Art Scroll Haggadah, authored by Rabbi Joseph Elias, enjoyed widespread use before Art Scroll published editions. Boy, there's so many typos in this. From Rabbi Schwab, Sherman, Brander, Weinrib, Reisman, Wallach, Weiss, Twersky, and countless other luminaries. 1979, the Humanist Haggadah, speaking for the humanistic Jewish movement. 1995, the Stonewall Seder, speaking for the LGBTQ community. Many, many more Haggadot representing social and political concerns have been created. There are almost too many to mention, but they broadly cover a wide range, including the Black Lives Matter movement, hunger, labor justice issues, global refugee crises, alcohol and drug abuse, and almost every matter of societal or personal oppression. In the past quarter century or so, Haggadot have embarked on yet another path, veering wildly sometimes from the settled text and often inflected with a healthy dose of pop culture attract others who may not have been included along the way. I would say most of this is targeting a younger audience. It could mean that we, as a people, have done our utmost to invite everyone to the table. This is wonderful. Notable ones include 2007 30-minute Seder. Have that one too. The Hagaddah that blends brevity with tradition. A useful and clever creation designed for an age where getting your attention for anything is a rather difficult task. 2008, Richard Cador's Joyous Hagaddah, a children and family cartoon Hagaddah for Passover Seder. Plain, fun, attractive visually, whose entire purpose is to pull children in and engage them and with them. Oh no, 2017, the Zombie Hagaddah. In my view, the wildest, strangest, and most metaphor-packed of this whole lot. A thing like this could have not been created in any other generation. 2017, the unofficial Hogwarts Hagaddah, Rabbi Moshe Rosenberg's delightful creation builds on the Harry Potter series. Oh my goodness. 2018, Welcome to the Seder, a Passover Hagaddah for everyone. Previously, Haggadot were more generally designed to target specific peoples in specific movements in specific places. This example, among others, speaks more universally, gathering up anyone left who may have felt overlooked or excluded. Further speaking to this point are copious new Haggadot with inclusive phrases like for all, the whole family, for all generations, family participation, and the like. As with the Haggadot addressing social issues, there are too many more that deserve mention, but space is at a premium. Nevertheless, let us include for the record, for this we left Egypt, the Kveler Hagaddah, a different night, the baseball Hagaddah, lots of matzah. I love matzah, the Jewish journey Hagaddah, the hip hop Hagaddah, the hipster Hagaddah, and more. 2019, in this proposed creative era, two items stand out, at least for me, because both seem to have come full circle in our culture and in this presentation. Firstly, we have the most popular, at least according to Amazon, of all, the Passover Hagaddah graphic novel, a gorgeous comic book-esque reshowing of the Hagaddah that captures the imagination. The text sits squarely in our current era, but also harkens back to the illuminated era, creating a bridge to the past while modernizing slightly. The other item is my very own creation, the emoji Hagaddah, about which I cannot escape complete bias. I work to create discussion and inclusion and presence at the Seder table. 2020, scouring the landscape of Haggadot printed for Passover 5780, I have found tablets, the Passover Hagaddah, an ancient story for modern times. The Passover Hagaddah, a biography. The Hagaddah for the Generations 2020, connecting the Seder to your family's history. The Human Rights Hagaddah, at the Magid's Seder, the Promise of the Land, a Passover Hagaddah, and Koren Youth Hagaddah, Major Man Edition. All are wonderful creations and useful, but don't seem to be pushing the envelope too much. Perhaps an era has closed and another is about to be launched. Perhaps the era is taking a breath to be invigorated soon. I'm trying to keep it going by having recently published the Festivus Haggad. Oh, a fusion of the Seinfeld canon and the classic Haggadah. I am intentionally pushing this into the larger culture. In this attempt, I am following the lead of one Dave Cowan, who delivered a very similar 1-2 punch with humor at the base with 2018's The Trump Passover Haggadah and 2019 the yada yada Haggadah. At this point in history, perhaps a silly era is nigh, having come quite far to get here after all this time. And if humor does not pull in the final few left who have not yet been invited to the Seder table, time will tell what else can be done. At this point in history, 3,000 different versions of the Haggadah are believed to have been created and counting. We have humbly brought forth about 2% of this number for our discussion. May Haggadot of all sorts, speaking for all kinds, remain at your table for all generations. Next year in Jerusalem.
Okay, this text, I'm really appreciate Diane. It's by Martin Bodek.
We better tell him he's got quite a bit of typos in this little piece here.
I have here in a Temple Bethel, I have my books, and I receive the Ottingen Hagaddah. This is an Hagaddah, a facsimile from 1729. If you, I will leave this facsimile from 1729 in my office. If you like to see the facsimile, how it's look, and all Hagaddah, it will be here. This is something amazing. I remember it's a present that I received from the General Consul of Germany in Porto Alegre. A very nice present. But I would like to show you the birds Hagaddah. Let me show you the birds Hagaddah. It's really very, very curious, this birds Hagaddah, because we have birds, literally. You can see the birds with the matzot. This is one of the first Haggadot.
Rabbi, what
Yes.
is the significance of birds? Because they
It's
almost
people-
look like those
it's
caricatures
people-
of Jews.
It's people with face of birds. Because it's not a bird. You can see the body, it's the body of a person. But like just the head, it's the head of birds. It's a specific Haggadah. They try to do something different. Okay, this is one, the bird Haggadah. And I have more Haggadot to show you. The National Library of Israel did an excellent work, and you can access online. If you are interested, I can send the links. You will have more time at home to enter and to see the different links. But you can find the facsimiles from the illustration from all you can download for free and to have in your home if you like. Yes, many of the Hagadot that Diane mentioned before, the Prague Hagaddah, let's see, we don't have a lot of colors here. Black and white. Yes, the first Hagadot. Let me just and we can see that the first Hagadot with illustrations, but they were 100% in Hebrew. And big letters. We need to remember that part of the prayers, most of the prayers are in Hebrew, and some of the prayers are in Aramaic. This is the Hagaddah of Prague. Let's go to other Hagaddah. Okay. Okay, I'm back. We have the Prague, the Rothschild Hagaddah, Amsterdam Hagaddah, Morocco Hagaddah, Passover Hagaddah, the Golden Hagaddah. You can see more color here. Hagadot according to the Sephardic tradition. The Hamburg Hagaddah. And I would like to show you the Washington Hagaddah. The Washington Hagaddah is here. Okay. Let me see if this can be bigger or not. I'm trying to open. Okay. It's working. Just to see at least one page. You see it's working, but it's not open. Perhaps it's very heavy, the file. But we have the entire Hagaddah. Yes, 40 pages. Let's see if I can open other one. Okay, now it's open.
Very pretty. Are those food stains on it?
You see all Hebrew. Yes, Sandy? The Washington Hagaddah, that it's the first Hagaddah that we mention in the United States, all in Hebrew. Hebrew on some colors. this site, Library of Congress. It's not so fast, or perhaps the file is very hard and then it's not open so quickly than others. Okay, but you have an idea, and I try to find the Hagaddah with run sheets, with music in the back. Okay, it's here. See if no, it's not here. But there are many Haggadot. Yes, you can find one of my favorite Haggadot. Let me show you. 1 minute. It's here. And we have Haggadot in many languages. But one of my favorite Haggadot is that one. If you like to have a different Haggadah with a lot of material to read, and this Haggadah from Noam Zion, it's fantastic because you can find many contemporary issues to discuss in your table. And sometimes the problem is that, okay, we are sitting and every year it's the same, and we are singing Manishtana, and we are singing Abadim Ainu, Hagaddah, and we are singing Echad Mi Yodea, but we need to find important issues to talk. If we like to develop an interesting seder, we need to introduce different things. If everybody is coming to your home and and you open the Haggadah and nothing new happened, we need to be very creative to attract also the new generations. And one thing that I'm going to do with you, if you are going to attend our seder, I will talk. And I will ask, and you will participate. It's very important to create a dialogue between us, between the people who is attending a seder. If not, it's very boring. If not, you open the book, you sing, you eat, and you go home. No, we need to ask, and we need to share our thoughts about freedom. One of the important things that we can discuss and we can talk, it's also about the time that our people was in Warsaw, in Poland, during the time of the ghetto. The time the revolution of ghetto Warsaw was during Pesach. Okay, and the last Haggadah that I heard about, let me show you. You just read about Haggadah that was written, was printed by the Shoah survivors. And then we have, for the forum of the hostages, they just created an Haggadah. Let me see. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. We are talking about Haggadot, and we are talking about new Haggadot. This is the digital version, the Haggadah of Freedom. This year we created the Haggadah of Freedom, a traditional Passover Haggadah in Hebrew and English, side by side, accompanied by text, interpretation, and personal stories from returners and the families of the hostages. In this Haggadah, you will find the story of the Seder that Liri Albach and Agam Berger held while in captivity, because they spent the last year, Pesach, in captivity. The letter Agar Goldin wrote to his fiancée on the eve of Passover before his abduction, the music that saved Sagi Dekel Hen, Moses' profound realization in their relevance today, as reflected by Ruby Hen, father of Ittai. Okay, but this is the last Hagaddah, and I'm sure that this Hagaddah will enter in the big list that you read before, Diane. You can see that we continue to create new Haggadot, different times, different stories, different opportunities to talk about freedom. And this one is the last Haggadah that I know about, and about it.
I can't wait for the Handmaid's Tale version.
Yes. Any question, any commentary? Did you prepare your own Haggadah in your home or not? There are many families who prepare their own Haggadot in.
I'll bring you my collection Friday night or Sunday. I have so many because we have from my parents and from Alan's parents and from Alan and me, and they're old. So I'll bring you a collection.
Good. And this is one of the most popular books that we have in our libraries, because you participate in one seder and see or you bought a new Haggadah. I can show you this and this.
Yeah, I have that one.
Many, because I love this.
Suzanne.
It's from Brazil. It's one of the most popular Haggadot. In Hebrew, in transliteration, and in Portuguese. You need to understand that you are very lucky, because English, perhaps it's the most popular language around the world nowadays, but other countries like Brazil or there are not a lot of millions of citizens around the world who speak Portuguese, and we don't have a lot of Haggadot in Portuguese or with the Portuguese translation. It's really a challenge to find an Haggadah with Portuguese translation. In English, we saw the list. The list is really very big, but you need to consider that perhaps in other places, it's most common to find an Haggadah in Hebrew, but not in their own language. And the problem that we have nowadays, not everybody have knowledge to read the Haggadah in Hebrew. And if we decide to invite the people to participate and to sing in the Seder, we need the translation. Okay, this is an important point to consider. If you invite people to your home and you would like to invite them to sing with you, and they don't know Hebrew, you need an Haggadah with translation that will be more inclusive. Then everybody can participate. Okay.
Okay.
I hope that many of you will attend next Sunday our community Seder. We are preparing with love, and I hope to hear your voices. And if you like to participate and to read part of the Haggadah, you will be very welcome during our Seder. But I will push you with different questions, and let's build together a nice Seder. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for your attention, for being here. And I would like to wish you Hag Kasher V'Sameach.
Thank you.
Same to you.
And to everyone.
Thank you. See
Bye-bye.
you tomorrow.
See you.
Hasta mañana.
Bye-bye.